Hi everyone, welcome to day 3 of the Heart-Centered Art Challenge. So today's practice is what I like to call bringing light into the shadows. So I'm going to walk you through it and then talk a little bit about it. So this is a practice that is particularly helpful if you're dealing with a lot of fear of being seen, showing up, if you have a lot of inner critics and doubts. I know we all have this. But this is something that I especially lean on in those harder times or more frustrating days, and I find it to be very soothing, so I hope that you do too. So to start, we're going to do some journaling again. You can either do the journaling on a separate piece of paper or in a journal, or you can do it directly on the piece that you're going to be working on. I'm giving you that option in case you really want to dive deep into the questions and allow yourself a lot of extra space to do that. And then you can always transfer the most potent answers over to your art piece later. So here are the questions. The first one is, what are you afraid that people might find out about you? So that might seem kind of strange to ask yourself at first, but the thing is a lot of us, and this is particularly on point if you deal with imposter syndrome, it's like we feel like we're afraid for people to know things about us. That usually means we have something in us that feels really shameful, like something that we're not proud of. And diving into that question can be very enlightening and feel kind of cathartic to get out. What is it exactly that we're afraid that others will see? And so the second question is, what feels daunting or scary to you about putting yourself out there? Like, what is the worst thing that could happen? A lot of the times we don't share our work or we don't create our best work, and we hold ourselves back because we're afraid something bad is going to happen to us. Without going into all the reasons why we might feel that way, it's important to think about, what is this worst case scenario that I keep trying to protect and shield myself from? And just kind of let the answer for that one flow. And then the last one to ask yourself is, when it comes to creating, what are your fears or doubts? I think all of us have our own special, brand or flavor of the mean voices that happen when we show up to create or that stop us from creating. So this is your opportunity to just give all those mean girl voices their own voice. So definitely take your time in free writing those. It's really not about shaming yourself for having these thoughts or feelings, but just giving them the space to come out so you can look at them and, see what's really been going on beneath the surface. The problem is that a lot of these thoughts and feelings happen in this subconscious background. So we're not so conscious of what's going on, yet we feel paralyzed or nervous or afraid, or we have a really hard time showing up, or we get stopped in our process, but we don't know exactly why. We just know that we don't feel good. So by writing the answers to these questions, you're just letting that side speak finally, because I know we do so much work to quiet it so that we can do our work. So this is kind of the opposite of that. Okay, so once you have all of that written out, if you did write on a separate piece of paper, just kind of go through your answers and see what was the most potent for you, and maybe narrow it down to a couple key things that you're going to transfer over to the first layer of the piece that you'll be working on. Okay, so now for the second part of the exercise, we're going to sink into the other side of ourselves. And I like to call this side of myself the encourager. So while we all have these doubts and fears and things running in the background, we also have a side of us that wants to create, that loves to play, loves to be seen, loves to express herself. You probably have a side that does believe you have something meaningful to say, that does want you to put your work out there and show up. And so just feel into her as you go into the next part of this exercise. So that is the part of us that we're going to be channeling as we create. So similar to the previous days, creating intuitively and asking yourself, what does this side of me, this encourager side, how does she look, feel? What colors is she? If you're more literal, you could even say, what would she say to this side of myself that is really afraid and scared? I like to think of this as self-soothing, as we're making creative choices from this encourager aspect of ourselves, we're kind of soothing over, quite literally, our fears and doubts onto the page. So by the time you're done, you should feel a little bit lighter. I like to think of this also as self-mothering, where we're really comforting our fears as opposed to just shutting them down and telling them they're wrong. We're saying, hey, it's okay, like I have another side here and she's got us. And to express that visually through art can be so, so powerful, and it's a practice that I recommend you rely on as you go throughout your creative journey and you hit those harder patches in your practice. So I seriously applaud you for doing this exercise today. I know that sometimes we can resist doing things like that, but once you're done, you'll feel a lot more cleansed. So I look forward to seeing how this practice goes for you. Don't forget to hashtag HeartArtChallenge when you share on Instagram, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 4.